so we don't miss anything.
Yeah. I have an agenda. The agenda goes like this. In fact, I want to introduce you to the teacher community, and especially in India, because I've already been doing some work here in India, training the teachers and in fact the whole the purpose was to bring in the coaching context or the coaching approach into teaching. And we have done a couple of series of training programs, and luckily we're going to do one more.
One more?
Yeah, one more, and
Congratulations.
very soon. In fact, this was coincidental, and it's very coincidental that today is a Teacher's Day. I really wish you...
Yes, I saw that. Yes, it's Teacher's Day.
Yeah, it's a Teacher's Day.
Good timing.
Yeah, good timing. So we are having one program in the next week. So that would be a wonderful occasion for introducing this new idea that we have thought about on the Coach Cafe last week when we talked about the coaching agreement. So in fact it was an agreement that we actually came into, both of us, with Dorothy on the call. So the agenda is to ask you questions relating to what is the coaching approach. Oh, can you give me a minute? Just a minute. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Where would we be without children?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about the first thing is to actually get to know who Martin Richards is to this world. In fact, introduce you to that community of teachers which is waiting for someone who has this passion and the true vision of bringing a lot of knowledge, skill sets, and especially the approach. Because we're talking of the approach, because you are a certified ICF coach and closely associated with ICF, living in Sweden and having vast experience of 2 decades into teaching and training. So definitely,
that's right. Yeah.
So definitely you would be experiencing day in and day out, and you have done a whole lot of programs. You have designed and created and delivered the training programs, and which are mainly coaching, and you've done individual coaching as well as group coaching for teachers, parents, students. It could be corporate people, and your areas of interest are mainly into training business English and bringing about a coaching approach for the teachers. So I want to ask you questions, powerful questions, so that
sure, go ahead.
So that we make this very interesting and not a very, very boring lecture by me. I don't want to bore people listening into this program. And in fact, the idea is to bring in a whole lot of video series. So that
good, yeah.
So that we can put these video series onto the Skype and invite the teachers on the 27th. That is when we're going to have the next program for our Coach Cafe. And before that, I would have this program with the teachers in Bangalore. We are expecting around 100 teachers, 100 plus teachers. So there would be a big number, and I can always invite them onto the Skype and tell them about what we are doing together. So Martin, why don't you
100 people on Skype together. That's
No, not 100, not at one go.
no, I know what you mean. Of 100, maybe 10 will come, which is perfect.
No,
Maybe
not at all. You know. I don't want to pressurize you with big numbers. Yeah, I think we have Ubu has around 12 is the maximum.
That's right.
Yeah.
The system we're using limits 12 and
Yes.
its interaction between those 12. So there's quite a lot of traffic to think about.
Yeah. So it's because 2 of us will be always there, so we can have a batch of 10, I believe.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good number. So we can have 10.
You've already worked it out.
Yeah. And what these people will do is they'll go and actually read your book. And Martin, why don't we start this discussion with the book? You have written the book, which I downloaded today, and I'm just going through it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a wonderful book. I mean, I just went through the font. I really love the font and the way you have approached the whole thing. And
yes, it's all about the font.
Yes.
The typeface is everything.
Yes, the presentation.
It lends, I think, it
Yes.
makes it easier to read. It just flows straight through.
Yeah. So why don't you tell something about the book and what is this book all about and why did you write the book in the first place and for whom is this book all about? Yeah.
Right. Well, to go for your second question first, I wrote it partly for myself as a way of arriving in this new world, so to speak, where I'm coaching in schools like I've been coaching at companies.
Mm-hmm.
So I've transitioned from the world of business and developing business communication within groups and with customers to where I really have my great passions, where I really started at the age of, maybe 11 or 12, when I became a teacher in my own mind. And now I am back in the arena of working with teachers. Mm-hmm. And it's very interesting to see the parallels, the similarities between what's going on in the classroom and the challenges that are there, and then what happens at the workplace and the challenges that they say that they have. And in some way, if you can get teachers and students' relationship to work better, then when the students come out into adult life, they're going to be much better equipped to work with the kind of things that they're going to be working with in the 21st century. So it was partly to guide myself in transition from one world to the next, but it turned out to be a how-to book, a recipe book. From the stories which were my own experience, I took conclusions, tools, methods that you can apply elsewhere. So I started with an example and then went up one level to a meta level where this skill, for example, of being curious, of listening, of non-judgment, all of those things could be applied in many, many situations in the classroom. And I think it's also going to serve the students. And going back over the past 5 years where I've been working with students, with teachers, I see how much benefit there is and how easy it is for the students to adopt a coaching approach. Not so much with each other, but from their teacher. Mm-hmm. And the more challenge there is for a teacher to adopt a coaching approach, because it is a bit of a change. I see that a book full of examples, both in story form and in recipe form, I think this is really going to help teachers. So it's those three things. First for me, then the teachers, then the students.
Okay.
That's where I am with that.
So that was a wonderful, interesting answer that I received, It was for you and then for the students and then for the teachers. And it's going to benefit the entire, community, teaching community and the education community. Okay, and this, you have named it as Book 1. And that was really, I was a little bit amazed, Is there any reason for that or what is it? And are you going to come up with many more books?
It's part of the process. Uh-huh. Yeah, I decided at some point that I must I must encapsulate the coaching approach, the journey from teacher to coach that I've done. I must encapsulate it in a countable number of steps. Otherwise, it's just too big. And on one day, I simply wrote down, I have it in front of me, the original 12 steps, the 12 steps to a coaching approach. And that's the book I started writing in April. And we got to about June, and the book was just growing and growing with stories and models. And I got stuck on chapter 7. Chapter 8 was easier, but I was no way going to get to chapter 12 by the end of the year. And I had some coaching. Coaches need coaches.
Yes.
And my coach asked if I needed to do it all now. He said, do you need to do it all now? And my answer was, I must get this out. It's so important. I've got the whole summer. Then I realized that I will be foolish to try and finish all 12 by the summer. So let's do half. Let's do 2 books. Book 1 is written now, thank goodness. Book 2 is on the way.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be ready in January. I don't know. We'll have to see what spare time I have, because there's a lot of work coming in right now, and
so
that's
it's
why
a wonderful journey. It's a wonderful journey that we coaches have, and I mean, especially if someone like you, who's been here for so long, and then you're writing a book, and then it's on it's for everyone. You're giving it out free till the 27th of September, right?
That's right. Right. If someone is willing to give me feedback on the book, then they can download it. It's a complimentary copy.
Okay.
I'm limiting it to maybe what the amount of feedback that I can deal with. But on the 27th of September, it will go out for sale. And it's not a tremendous amount of money. It's $15.
Yes.
And that means you can download it to your computer and you print it out at home if you want to print it. Most people don't. It fits nicely on your iPhone. It's a very small file. And you're able to look at it in the classroom. I'm thinking of teachers having this on their computer. They can turn to it. And there's like recipes. Do this, do this, do this.
Okay. I was just flipping through that soft copy, which I downloaded today, and I was also going through your websites, www.martinrichards.se, right?
SE for Sweden.
Yeah. And it is really, it's full of goodies. In fact, lots of resources to be found, and especially for the community. And
you found one today, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes. So tell me, Martin, what is the approach that you're talking about? You are actually focusing, your vision is, I saw, you talked about 3 things. It's very, very clear on the website. One is the inspiration. And then you have the second one is, you have it as... I've written it actually,
we're talking about the inspirational talk to kick things off.
Yes,
that's the usual way to start.
Then you talked about actually putting it into the, talk about inspiration first, till I get the...
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm going to give an inspirational talk at a college quite nearby this coming month. So the way that's set up is that I will actually be speaking to the students. I believe it's easier for a teacher to accept what I say they can do if I can do it. So I walk into their classroom with their students and I give a talk about life, about making choices consciously. And I equip the students with tools for making choices further on, either in their studies at the university or college, or in their work.
Okay.
And I do that in a very short way. It only takes an hour. And it's quite a lot of things get done for the students in that time. And the teachers are in the room and they can see this. And usually the teacher's reaction is, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. I know my students much better. And they want the tools so that they can go ahead and do it. It's also in this country at least, they're asking teachers to be coaches as well. So they are on a regular basis expected to interact with their students, not as teacher-student, but as coach and coachee. But they haven't got any training for that. So from that first kickoff, that first meeting where the students get inspiration to make choices in their life, and teachers get inspiration to support their students to do that, there comes the demand, the request for training. They want me now to come in and train them. And again, they don't have time, they don't have money, so I've found ways of doing this incredibly quickly. And it's all done through story. That's the trick. For me, it's the trick. I mean, somebody else might do it a different way, but for me, I wrap up the message in a metaphor inside a story. So I tell the story with a lot of drama and waving of hands, and then I ask them what conclusions they get from it. And in fact, they sit 2 and 2, the teachers, and talk about the conclusions that they come to. And then I ask them how it might apply to their situation. And usually they can see loads of applications. And then I ask them one commitment. All of that takes them an hour.
Okay.
So it's highly efficient, highly cost-effective.
No, I was getting so excited too, the way you were articulating your thoughts. So you're getting inspired. What I'm hearing is you get inspired to inspire them with wonderful stories. Yes. And they get so excited. They want to actually take this further, and it's like a gift which has been given to them, and they want to open it up and see what's there inside. What is coming to me is that, and then they see what they see inside is training, because I actually saw
usually training.
Yeah.
That's where I come from. The corporate world is they often know that they need training, so when I go into that situation, I don't have to sell it in so much. It's more, they're pre-sold, if you like. They know what they want a little more. Maybe some of the details are different. But in that case, it comes down to the teachers, need to practice coaching each other. And these are people who perhaps never really connected with each other before. One of the things I've noticed about teacher, the discipline of being a teacher, is it's very lonely. Teachers work in a classroom by themselves all day, with loads of people coming in and going out and coming in and going out. And then when they're really tired, they go to the teacher's room, and they really don't have that much energy to talk to each other. Compared that to many of the other jobs that I've seen, teachers have a really tough job. So it's no surprise that when I ask teachers to coach each other, they're a little bit careful to begin with. So again, because of that, I develop techniques that will help them create a connection between each other, so that they can trust each other to work in a specific way. And I've modeled that when I work with the students. Because again, that can be a little, how it is with a group of 17 or 18-year-olds. There are issues in the classroom, but you can work around them. You can work with them. That's where a lot of the energy comes from, is in the talks that I do with the students, is working with the conflicts. Same thing with the teachers. They've got conflicts. Work with it. Use it as energy. And from that comes conclusions about how to work with students, how to work with learning, which has this coaching approach. It's all based on really one phrase, and that is, what you see is strongly influenced by what you expect to see. What teachers see in their students is not necessarily what's there. It's what the teacher expects to see. Which means that a group of students could be in one room with one teacher, fantastic, enjoyable. And with another teacher in another room, they could be terrible. Same people. It's because of the filter that the teacher puts on the student. So I work a lot with the teacher's own filtration of reality, allowing them to notice what they're deleting and choose to take it in, choose to see something that's there that they haven't seen before. And again, that's role modeled every time I go into a classroom. I'm new to these students. For me, they're completely wonderful people. Okay. The teachers know that they're not, but I don't know. I don't know that. I just believe that they're wonderful, and they become wonderful. They become cooperative. They enjoy themselves. They get really deep into subjects that are really sensitive. And the teachers are standing to one side going, "How did he do that?" And it's because I have a different filter. So asking teachers to refilter reality and be aware of that they can see the positive things. The positivity is one of the things I work with right at the beginning of the book. Work with your own filters first. And then you will begin to see what's really there.
Okay. Yeah, it's really very, very interesting going through the website and listening to you now in person. And what you really gave me is a picture of, it's not just the students, but it's the teachers as well who start really opening up to the learning part of it. And it's pretty much the same in India also, Martin. I mean, we have the teachers very pressurized, we hardly ever get time, and when they go to the teacher's room, it's like they are almost completely, tired. And the aspect that you brought about is, it's bringing in a lot of humor in the place where they are learning, and opening the students to newer and better things. So what is it that you do? What is it that you do? Do you ask questions, or do you quiz them, or do you just keep telling them stories? How do the students suddenly, as you said, in one room the same students are making a lot of noise and really, being very notorious, and in another room they're just wonderfully enjoying the presence of the teacher. So what is it that creates a big shift in the students, and then which also creates a lot of impact on teachers?
It's what's going on in here.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is. It's not the students that make the difference. The teacher is wholly in charge. And when the teacher takes control of themselves, they control the entire room. So that means, take an example. A particular school where the students are known to be tough. The teacher invited me to give a talk, and he brought in another teacher to support him, and he briefed the students on behavior. We've got a guest coming into our class, let's behave. And they had an agreement, long talk before. And he invited me to come into the classroom. Now, most of these, I'm not a very tall person. Most of these young men, it was nearly all men, were bigger than me. They were like, So there was a physical confrontation within seconds. Like, they filled up the doorway so I couldn't get in. So in that moment, using that conflict, I stood still and made eye contact, and I knew that I am a mature adult, and so I know that, and I hold on to that. And this young boy, looking like a man, begins to back down. And the instant he begins to back down, I move in, and a little bit more, and then I take over the room. It's not big things, it's really, really small things on the outside. There were a number of challenges. I mean, they challenged my authority several times within the first few minutes. And I dealt with it with humor. I made it very funny. Because I had inside the confidence. Now, how did I feel? I felt really scared that these men were going to throw chairs at me, or, I don't know, just ignore me or something. I was, scared, and confident at the same time. If you'd seen me from the outside, you would have seen the confidence, because that's what I needed to portray. And the scared part of me, the little boy Martin who lives in here, he was feeling the fear, but he wasn't letting it come out and give him away.
Okay.
At the beginning of that talk, I stood and waited. And the noise went down, down. And then anyone who dared to speak was shushed by the other students, not by me. So we established this authority right at the beginning. I didn't shout at them. And then the teachers that I was working with who'd invited me could see that this is a better way of gaining control of the room. You don't have to shout. You just need to wait. If you have the confidence that this is going to work. That's one of them. It's one thing you need to have is confidence.
Yes. You talk a lot about telling versus, asking questions instead of telling. And then I think what you really, did, or what I'm really getting is it's all about acknowledgement.
Yes.
Kids need the acknowledgement and giving them the space to express who they are. So it's normal for kids. I think even we did the same thing when we were kids.
Yeah.
So it's all about acknowledging them and then validating them and showing them the respect. So you get the respect back from them. And so you in this approach that you're talking about, which you're going to bring about, and the whole change in that culture of the education, it's going to become from telling to asking questions, asking them the powerful questions. So can you talk something about what kind of powerful questions would the teachers be asking them, or would the students be asking the teachers?
Sure. But it goes both ways. Let me start by talking a little bit about telling, because I noticed that some teachers maintain control by continuously talking and not letting the students ask any questions. I don't know exactly what the reason for that is, but it could be a lack of confidence. It could be that the teachers feel they've got so much information to communicate, they must speak all the time. Unfortunately, they're speaking to ears that are getting very, very small. The students are not listening. They're not reacting at all. And well, I've seen students with their heads down flat on the table, not listening at all, and the teacher still talking. So that's why I want to move away from talking and telling to asking. So there are a number of questions you can ask for a number of different purposes. One of them would be just to kick off the lesson, to ask a question about the content of the lesson to the students. It's not exactly what do you know about this, but why is 3.14159 so important? What's this strange number? Might get some of the students more interested because they might answer. And then you have a dialogue. You would want the dialogue to spread, so you would be asking more and more students to get them involved. If you have one student who keeps answering your questions, you have to ask them to respect that there are a lot of people in the room. It can become like a tennis match where the teacher speaks half the time, but it might be better to ask your question and then say to the students, okay, work in pairs, talk to each other about your answer, and then I'll ask one or two of you to say what you think the answers might be. And work in that way so that you've got a kind of dialogue that's running, that's based on curiosity, about finding out. And I would say the kind of questions the teacher needs to ask in these circumstances are ones where the teacher does not know the answer. So I would be asking a question about what you think or what you feel about, or what you already know about something, whatever the topic might be in the classroom, so that I'm not asking questions where I already know the answer, because that's silly. We do it all the time. What's the capital of France? France don't I know? Yes, I do, but I just want to check to see if you know. Not a very interesting kind of conversation. Bringing the conversation alive by asking open questions. So that's what one of the chapters has been about, is going from telling to asking. And the next chapter is using open questions and how you can use those to structure a lesson, how you can use that to structure the dialogue in the classroom and get a lot more response from your students. Of the right kind of response. I mean, sometimes you get a lot of response. You may have to control that. Yes. But it's getting an intellectual conversation going, getting their curiosity going.
You're also talking about two things, taking the whole conversation forward and then much deeper. That was really very striking for me. You talked about, I think it's your model, your coaching model you're talking about. Where
yes, it is.
So can you talk something about your coaching model as such, which you have designed for the teachers?
Yeah, the coaching model basically is based on like an ordinary kind of coaching. You have to have an agreement that in this lesson you're going to do more, you're going to learn more, you're going to feel more, and you're going to learn more about yourself and the world around you. And that means that you and I, if I'm your teacher and you're my student, that we have to have a clear relationship. What sort of questions can I ask about and what can't I ask about? And what do I expect from you? This is often not written down between teacher and student. And when it is written down by the teacher and signed by the student. What I'm talking about is something that's mutually arrived at, so that you have something that it's an agreement, it's a mutual agreement. And then the questions are working towards a goal of some kind. So we need to have a goal. I would, as a coach, prefer to work with your goals, but we've got goals coming from outside as well, so that makes it more interesting. I might have goals for you. We would have to agree on the goals before moving forwards. And that sounds complicated, but I've seen it done so simply. The teacher puts the goals for this lesson on the board. It's the teacher's goals. And then she'll ask the students, of the goals that are on the board, which one you want to do first?
Okay.
Rather than saying, this is it, get on with it. You give them an amount of choice that they can cope with, depending on the maturity of the students. Some need more guidance, and you would give them that. Others don't want the guidance, and you would give them the freedom for that. The other part where you've got a coaching approach at the end of a lesson is to take the time to ask the students, what have you learned? Again, it's a question I don't know the answer to. It would be interesting as a teacher to know what you've learned. So I would ask the students, what have you learned? How has your behavior affected your learning? I'm just thinking of the, what you do and what you get as results. And I might put the students in groups of 4 or 2 to discuss that in that way before I ask a few people to share with the whole class.
Okay.
That's coaching. And you would add on questions about, now that you know the results you've got, how pleased are you? What do you want to do differently next time?
Okay. So that gets them to the next step of coaching. So you talk about...
Yes, it's all coaching.
Then you do training and then you give them the support. So you talk about people going deeper, not just forward. They go deeper into the learning part of it. And maybe that is the coaching part you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes, it is as well, because in this coaching approach to teaching, you're working a lot with the students' inner processes.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be asking questions about what's preventing them from learning, to make them aware that there's something that they can work with. Okay, they're going to learn this, whatever that might be.
Mm-hmm.
But what's getting in the way is something else, and they need to work with that so that they can get to this. But an example would be, some students are really scared of coming up to the front of the room and speaking. I mean, they make a lot of noise from where they're sitting, but, come up to the front and say that. Something happens, and that's important to touch on. What is it that's stopping you from making that jump from where you are to where you could be?
Yes.
And so I'm focusing on the student's process rather than the knowledge at that point.
Yes.
That's where the teacher puts the knowledge hat to one side and puts on a coach hat and says, okay, we seem to have some problems with getting that knowledge, that understanding. What's getting in the way? What's getting in the way of us working together? What's getting in the way of you, 4 people working as a group? And making their processes clearer to them. 9 times out of 10, they solve it all themselves.
Okay. So it's a very transformational approach that you have, Martin. I mean, that's what I'm seeing and hearing. It's a very transformational approach, very, very transforming, not just not for the teachers, but it is for the students as well, in the process. Yeah. The students themselves start, and it's like both of them together, you're co-creating. And
you're co-creating.
Yeah, they're co-creating. It's a wonderful process, for anyone. Anyone can take this and apply it for themselves. We've been talking about, taking this to the next level of giving them a course once they read this book online. You were talking about giving them a course online, a 6-session course. And can you talk something about that so that...
Yeah. Well, there are 2 versions of it, really. There's an open version where people can, through Uvu or through Skype, can connect together. The openness allows people from different parts of the world, and this is the fantastic thing that, okay, I'm sitting here in Sweden, but the same conversation is going on between me and people in America. So there's something common to all the students all around the world who are asking for something different. So their teachers are coming together. They're connecting through this electronic medium, and they're talking to each other about what are you trying and what's working for you, and where do you get stuck. And in the group we've got coaches, so we coach and support each other into finding what else we can try if we have got stuck, and sharing the triumph when we perhaps tried something new and found how well it works. But we need to back people up. That's because often teachers work alone, and it can be a challenge for them to continue in this different way alone.
Yes.
We've found even within the business community, if you take one person from a team and train them a different way of doing things, within 6 months when they go back to work, they're doing it the old way.
Yes.
Why? Well, because everybody else is. It's like we're magnets, and we all hold together. If you turn one person upside down and change them, put them back into the group, they flip back again. It's just too hard to do it on your own. So you need the support of other people who are doing this transformational work. We're transforming the way teachers teach. In time, you might find that you are in a school where enough teachers are doing it so that the flip becomes natural for your whole school. That's where I am with one of the schools locally, that there are enough teachers working in this way so that the others will now flip to this coaching approach.
So what basically
I get the impression that maybe you need you need about a third of the staff to work in a coaching way to turn the others to a coaching way.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're basically talking about is the flip of, one third of the group starts flipping to the coaching approach, then the rest also follows suit, and it actually impacts a lot. Okay. And who might need to get this individual support, once we start this process?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the open groups are for everyone to share. But we find on occasions that teachers can get stuck. You get a team of teachers who get stuck and they need a little more directed support. So that's where we would have a closed group. Sometimes work individually, and that's when someone's been on a training course and they want to feel what it feels like to be coached, so that they can carry that feeling into their classroom and share it with their students. I can't always go to every school, obviously. So sometimes we need to charge up the teachers and build up their courage, build up their sense of mission and purpose around having a different way of doing things. So when they get into the classroom, they still got it, And then there's the problem solving. We're in touch by email, and they say this and this and this has happened, and then we coach them through it by email, or we reconnect over Skype or something, and coach them through that process. Every time someone gets a problem, we know they are trying hard to make something happen.
Yes.
So their usual advice is back off a little bit, get a little broader. Don't push so hard, just get a little broader, let the thing take its course. These things are signs of you making a change, and learn from them. So they know that when they get some support, it's not going to be push, that we're going to force them to do something. It's relax, enjoy the ride. It's a bit bumpy right now.
Yes.
So that's why we have the smaller closed groups, the individual work.
So that would be a wonderful model, you're coming up with. In fact, you start with the inspiration, then you take them on to the training part, and finally you give them the support in the coaching process. So it could be people who would be interested on their own also. They would be, volunteers who would say, hey, look, now that, I know what coaching is all about, I really want to get into coaching myself. I want to get coached and step into the coaching field. So probably there would be lots of people turning into coaches in the process. So
probably. And
yes.
I do. Yeah. One of the things that I'm also doing with seven colleges nearby is that partly I'm coaching the individual teachers, but also training them at the same time to coach each other. So they get the physical tools, but they also get the sense of what they need to have going on inside, so that they can efficiently coach other people and be coached by them. I think when teachers start coaching each other, they raise the requirements on each other. Like, basically, don't give me any advice. It's the worst thing to do with a teacher. And by coaching them and training them at the same time, again, it's cost efficient. It's very, very quick. And I think because teachers are already interested in development, they're interested in change, they're interested in making things different from Monday to Friday. They want their students to change. They want them to learn something, to become more independent. They have that drive anyway. It's just that we're stretching the skills out so that when the understanding, the learning part of it becomes a problem for the student, the teacher has ways of dealing with it. They don't have to leave the student to sort it out for themselves. They can guide the students.
Yeah. That was a real wonderful. So many things put together in such a nice way. I mean, the whole concept is so clear because your model is all talking about enabling them and giving them the tools, giving them the processes, and making them into giving them the coaching approach, not just the telling approach that they have done for so long, and it has really not worked. And now that they know, their eyes are open and they want to really see that, and they've started believing. It's really, really wonderful. And the best part is, Martin, that you have done this work for such a long time and you've seen the results. And I actually associated with you last couple of years. 2000, I remember 2011 was the time when I started, on those global coach calls. And I was so inspired myself. That is the reason why I actually kept telling this professor friend of mine. He is the principal of Commerce College here, and then we went and took it up and then created this big state level workshop. So what would be the next steps, if I ask you this question, what next steps are you seeing in this? Bringing down this whole...
Are you asking how this is developing, or how our audience can take a next step? I'm not sure of your question.
I'm talking about how you are visualizing it, visioning it, as to what kind of next steps can they take, or what kind of steps do you think we need to take, as coaches?
Okay. I think coaches need to make themselves available to contact schools and say, this resource exists, and to be sure for themselves what they're willing to do for this price or that price, because I'm thinking of coaches who run a business, of course. Just to decide for yourself as coach what you're willing to provide to the teaching community, because it's a very different mindset in a school that's run on a budget compared to a company that can generate money when it needs to. It's not easy, it's not instant, but they can generate money. Whereas schools, it takes 3, 4, 5 years before the idea, the process, now we have the money. So you need to be aware as a coach that you might need to be putting in something for free, something for what I call cost effective. And a book is cost effective. My colleagues and I have developed tools, things that can be printed out, PowerPoint slides, videos, card games, lots of different things that students like, that teachers can use, and they're copyable. Teachers like to copy. So we sell them the right to copy. Now, in the agreement, it says you may copy and use it forever in this school. Of course, that means a school might have 100 or 1,000 students. That means our tools are getting copied and spread to 1,000 people. That's marketing, isn't it? Well, never mind. You have to look at it from a business. Some schools in this country are run as a business. And they are a little quicker to see the business advantage, for example, of saying to the public, if you come to this school, your child, your student will get coaching by someone who has training in coaching. That's important. One of the schools where I work, each student gets individual, one-to-one coaching, 15 minutes per week.
15 minutes.
Every teacher has one whole day just for coaching. It gets spread across the week, of course, but they have paid time to sit on a one-to-one basis and ask the question, how satisfied are you, student, with your progress? Not me as a teacher, how I'm satisfied, but how are you satisfied? And then it becomes, how can we work together so that you are more satisfied, more successful, greater grades, or whatever it is they're looking for. So the next step is to educate. Educate in 2 ways. The administration, people who make the decisions, they need to know what the benefits are going to be, what it can cost, of course, and how much benefit in money, like a return on investment. So from previous work, I can say, these are the benefits, and this, I give it to them, how much is this worth? For example, if a teacher does not quit, it means you don't have to recruit another one, which means you save money on the recruitment process. What does the recruitment process cost you? You write that down. I don't need to know. You do. Now, if one of the schools I was brought into, half of the teachers quit. At the end of the term, 50% of the teachers walked out because they couldn't take it anymore. That meant that school board had to find lots of teachers where everyone in the community, the teaching community, knew that the teachers had left. Now, what would you pay not to have that? In terms of embarrassment, in terms of reputation. These are the painful points you need to find when you're communicating with the administration. With teachers, it's often a question of individual students or whole classes that they are having difficulties with because they're not communicating. How many hours do you spend crying or worrying about your students or your class? How's your Sunday afternoon? How would you like that to be completely free so that you can do whatever you want to do, play golf or be with your children, and never have to worry about your class again? That is priceless. Oh, it's going to cost you this much. But the priceless against this much, I don't cost anything, really, compared to what I generate, or what the coaching can generate. Then education, training in the skills of coaching, and I don't mean the external skills, I mean the internal skills. And then the last cherry on top is you might have to do some proof. You may have to show live that you can do it. You don't need to be a teacher. You just need to be a coach. You use curiosity, non-judgment, active listening. And you could talk about anything. You could talk about how I became a coach or why I became a coach.
Yeah, I can see that on your website. You're talking about the 11 ICF competencies. And then on each competency, you have actually created an audio clip, which is really very interesting for coaches to actually learn from. And of course, the teachers would be learning here. Teachers would be learning. It was an excellent website that you have created, and a lot of learning could happen through them. And of course, then later on, after they read the book, they do the course, they come online onto the Skype, they interact with the coaches who are there available and take support individually if they need to. So it's a wonderful journey that you have created for the teachers. And that shows
it's a hero's
that's
journey.
Your passion. That's your passion, and then you breathe that every day. In fact, And I really, really thank you, Martin, for this wonderful 1 hour that we spent, almost nearing to 1 hour, I believe, and we have spent talking about. It was very valuable.
That's right.
A lot of valuable knowledge, skills, and then we learned a lot. And people who are going to listen to this would definitely benefit, I'm sure. Any closing thoughts before we just say goodbye to each other and...
Yeah, when you ask the question, where's this going next? It is a question of what does the audience need to do, and that is get on the course, get in touch with us straight away. There's a lot of free stuff which will do a lot of good things for them. What's happening next? For me, I think this needs to go to government level. So that the administration for the country's education system also see the benefits and then begin to apply this kind of thinking, I call it generous thinking, for the teachers who are being trained now. So that we have a big shift. We need teachers to come into the system who think this way to begin with, so that we don't have to change their mind. Yes. So the next thing for me, for us, for this, is government level.
And today I actually saw your post on the Facebook. The teachers have gone on strike in England. right?
In the UK.
In the UK.
I might go over with a microphone.
Yeah. Yeah. And
yeah.
But what you have really said in your website, I'm referring all to your website. I may not be able to give the teachers the pay rise they deserve.
That they deserve.
I only raise the knowledge of coaching. That's my contribution to the world. That's wonderfully said, well said. Quote by you, Martin Richards. And it was really my honor to interview you. And we are all going to look forward to such video series where we would be actually coming and discussing a lot of issues, probably solutions to those issues. In fact, because as coaches we are always solution based, right? We're talking about what I read on your website was it's like we're going in a car and then we see the obstacles and then we need to actually tackle those obstacles. So that's a wonderful solution that you give to your teachers. And as I think definitely from Bangalore, definitely I'll be making the effort to bring in a lot of teachers on board who would be interested in getting such wonderful resource like you. I mean, who is an internationally well-known ICF certified coach and coming from the teaching background. Definitely.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah.
Yes, it definitely helps. And this is the first interview that we had. I mean, I took off yours, and we would be having many more such video series where you would be sharing your thoughts, and we would all be sharing all of the thoughts onto the board, and let's see how it goes. I'm sure it'll produce a lot of positive results. You talked about positivity, so it's going to really spread a lot of positivity and finally results. Finally the transformation in the people. And yes, as you mentioned about the government, definitely I think we'll leave with those closing thoughts that this will definitely impact the government and we could do something about it as coaches, definitely. Okay. So I really thank you.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be interviewed.
Yeah, thank you for being on this wonderful video show. I really thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.